Onwards to Paladin, we have 1 mana 1/1 Righteous Protector. It's a taunt Divine Shield minion. Argent Squire is already pretty good in Arena. It's very, very relevant, one of the better 1-drops. And now you can actually play it in Paladin and it gets taunt. Taunt is actually not insane in Arena, I guess, on a 1/1 body. Like, it's good, but it's not like a big upgrade to Argent Squire. I think you'd be happy with this, and I don't think you'd be like, you know, crazy about it either. Like, it's just an Argent Squire, and it's a 1-drop. Like, in Arena, you don't really necessarily want too many 1-drops. There are a lot of buffs, though, in Paladin, that, like, the more buff cards you have, the better Righteous Protector becomes. Well, it's the same thing with Argent Squire, right? So yeah, I'll give this like a 3 stars, just because you don't want a deck with a lot of 1-drops. Like, drafting an aggro deck is not going to be too powerful. Yeah. And as a comparison, Argent Squire is also a 3-star card. So yeah, you know, you'd be happy with this. And you know, when you see it, you probably want to pick it. Next we have Dark Conviction. It's a 2 mana, set a minion's attack and health to 3. So worst case situation, you get a 4 mana 3/3 because your hero partner play this, which is like passable. Because the best case situation is you get to neuter one of your opponent's drops, right? You can turn a ball creeper into a 3/3. You can turn one of those insane you know, big cards into a 3/3. This is effectively a removal spell for Paladin. You don't want too many of these because they're not true removals and they still get to kill your stuff. So I think it's once again one of those cards that the first copy is really good and then the rest of the copies are really, really bad. So yeah, I'm just gonna give this 3 stars, and you do not want to draft the second one. Next we have Chillblade Champion. It's a 4 mana 3/2 of charge and lifesteal. Now if you get to buff this up with hand buffs such as accidents, they happen, you know, or you gonna pay up, then this becomes really nutsos. Like, lifesteal is a very good stabilization mechanic, and you know, if you're drafting a greedy deck, like a lot of Spike Steeds, a lot of dino sizes and whatnot, and a lot of weapons, then this is going to be really, really effective. Keep in mind that this card, you really want to go face with it, because if you trade, then you know, you kind of lose the double lifesteal because your opponent is going to kill this themselves, right? So try and go face with this card, and then yeah, try and draft more greedy. If you see this, this is going to be a 3. I want to give this 4 stars, but I don't think is. I think it's a 3-star card. And if you draft more buff cards, it gets better. Desperate Stand, 2 mana, give a minion Death Rattle, return this to life with 1 health. Now, this is you know, a card that buffs a card with 0 stats and kind of extends your board in a sense, right? It's kind of like a redemption, but you get to choose your target. If you put this on something that's really valuable, then it's really strong, right? Something that's a Death Rattle itself. So, for example, Harvest Golem, Scarlet Crusader, or something like Grime Street, 5 mana 4/4 Grime Street guy. Like, that's really good, right? You ensure that you get another proc of the effect. However, you do need to play this on those specific minions, and you also need those minions to live, right? So, once again, it's kind of like Play Dead, in the sense that when you are improving a card, but you know, stars kind of need to align. Like, you need the minion to be on the board, you need your opponent to not interact with it, and then you need to play this on it with your opponent not playing silence effects or sap effects or whatnot. You know, I think it's gonna be too hard to make this work. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this 1 star. I don't think you want too many of these effects. They're just dead cards when you are playing from behind, or even if you're playing on Parsity. Next we have Howling Commander, 3 mana 2/2 Battlecry, draw a Divine Shield minion from your deck. Now this is also another 3 mana 2/2 draw card, which is really powerful, right? 3 mana 2/2 draw card are just really, really good, and there are a lot of Divine Shield minions you can get. So Argent Commander, you have Swoonwalker, you have all the new Divine Shield minion cards, and then if you are crazy, you can actually, you know, get a legendary or whatever. And this is just great. 3 mana 2/2 draw cards are very, very good because it gives you value. And Arena, sometimes you just want to go the value route because you need a mixture of tempo cards and value cards to make sure you beat both mid-range and control. So yeah, I'll give this 4 stars. 4 stars for Howling Commander. Next we have Arrogant Crusader. For 4 mana, you get a 5/2 with Death Rattle. If it's your opponent's turn, summon a 2/2 ghoul. Now this is actually a very, very powerful card in Arena because it has a very big attack, right? And it can go face really well. If you buff this up, which is very likely in Arena, it gets even more insane. And then your opponent doesn't really want to kill this because, you know, it drops a 2/2. It's like the Piloted Shredder for Paladin. So really, really powerful. It's gonna get some value no matter what. It does lose quite badly to Phoenix. You know, there are some cards that actually punish this quite well, but at the end of the day, you still play a 4-mana 5/2. The upside is really high in that it could trade for Yeti, for example. Like, you can actually just trade this card for Yeti and be perfectly happy for it because it's a 4-drop trading for a 4-drop, right? So the control is always in your hands. I think this is a 4-star card. I'll be pretty happy drafting this card. Light Sorrow is a 4-mana 1/4 with after a friendly minion loses Divine Shield, you get to gain +1 attack. So weapons that are 1 attack are actually pretty strong. Light's Justice is one of the best cards in Arena for Paladin, honestly. But then this is 4 mana. It's very expensive. You also need to have more Divine Shield minions to make this a little bit more worth it. But at the end of the day, it's still a weapon, right? Weapons are regarded really highly. So if you have a draft where you actually have no weapons and then you see this, you still probably want to pick this up because weapons are a very unique effect that gains you a lot of tempo at the cost of health, right? And trading health is no problem. So I think Light Sword is okay. I'm gonna give this like I want to give this like 3, but I think realistically it's a 2, right? I think the power level is not quite there, but at the end of the day, it is a weapon, and if you do have like, you know, 5 Divine Shield creatures, then this becomes good, right? So yeah, it really depends on the draft, I guess. But overall, I think it's a 2. Next, we have Blackguard as a 6-mana 3/9, which is a very interesting body. I don't think we ever saw any 6-mana 3/9s before. But it has, whenever your hero is healed, deal that much damage to a random enemy minion. So this is really powerful because the stat line is great, and there are a lot of random healing effects in Arena. You have Gadgetzan Socialite, you have Farseer, you have True Silver Champion, you even have stuff like Darkscale Healer, and Take Your Medicine. You know, there's just a lot of random healing effects, and changing healing effects into a Knife Juggler effect is really, really powerful. So I would be pretty happy with this. I'll give it 3 stars. I think, you know, you want to draft this, and then if you have more combos with this, then this gets better. Now we have our legendary. It's Bolvar Fireblood with 5 mana, 1/7 Divine Shield. After a friendly minion loses Divine Shield, this gets +2 attack. So it's like literally a 5 mana 1/1 that death rattles into a 3/7, and then every time, you know, Divine Shields get traded off or whatever, then, you know, this gets bigger. The best way to use this card is to play some Divine Shield minions first, right? Play this on turn 5, trade some Divine Shields away, and this becomes a 3/7 Divine Shield that turns into a 5/7. So like the upside of this is really high, I think. But then if it's by itself, it's pretty bad, right? Like a 1/1 that goes into 3/7 is like it's like reasonable. Actually, you know what? A 5-mana 3/7 is pretty reasonable too. Okay, now that I look at it that way, I think it's a pretty good card by itself, and it could get even better. So yeah, I think you'd be pretty happy with this card. Yeah, especially if your opponent doesn't trade this Divine Shield. So, you know, if your opponent just ignores it because it's a 1/7, like who freaking cares about this 1/7, right? And then you play like Blessing of Kings on this, like this can get pretty nuts. Or even like Spike Ridge Steed. Yeah, this is actually pretty good now that I think about it. So in Arena, I think it's 4 stars. I think this is actually a good legendary in Arena. You want to draft this. And finally, we have Uther of the Ebon Blade. For 9 mana, you get to equip a 5/3 lifesteal weapon. Okay, that's pretty good. You get 5 armor, so stabilization for sure. And then you get to change your hero power into summon a 2/2 horseman. If you have all 4 horsemen, so if you use your hero power 4 times and it didn't die, you get to win the game. So yeah, how is this not like a nutso card, right? This is just ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. You get to kill something when you play Uther. You get to restore life because it's effectively a True Silver Champion. And then you start making 2/2s, which are super relevant in Arena, right? Like, making a 2/2 every turn in Arena is so backbreaking. How does your opponent beat that? Like, it's like drawing a 2/2 every single turn. Like, who cares about if you have 4 attacks, right? And it's there too, right? It's there too if you need to make this work. So yeah, easy 5 stars once again. I think you're just gonna pick this Death Knight card if you see it. All right, onwards to Priest. We have a 2-mana 2/2 Shadow Ascendant for an extra effect. You get to give a friendly minion +1/+1 at the end of each of your turns. So really powerful because you can actually, like, you're in control of this 2-drop. This is like the other 2-drop where it's not really a 2-drop, like Ice Walker, right? You don't want to play this on 2 on a naked board unless you have no other plays, right? If you play this with something else, like a 1-drop, and then play this, then it's really powerful. Or you can even do like turn 5, 3-drop and 2-drop. Right? This is pretty strong. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this card. I think this is 4 stars, and the more 1-drops you have, the better this gets. And just if you don't have a lot of 1-drops, then this is not your 2-drop. So make sure you draft enough 2s to make this work. Spirit Lash is a 2-mana spell card with lifesteal, deal 1 damage to all minions. So it's a very expensive type of whirlwind effect. But Priest has not really a good way of dealing 1 damage to minions, right? And this also gets you back some life, which is actually pretty strong against some certain classes like Rogue and Hunter, where they really want to kill you and like before they get outvalued by you, right? As a Priest, you're just gonna be playing big stuff all the time. So I think this card is actually pretty sweet. It also works on your own minions, right? Which is actually a bonus, because sometimes you actually do want to smork your own minion just for the sake of 1 more life. So yeah, I think this is just great. I think the second copy is also really bad. So like the more copies you have of this, the worse it becomes, because it's like a utility card, right? So I'm gonna give this 3 stars, but then try not to draft the second or the third one. Acolyte of Agony is a 3-mana 3/3 lifesteal, common, and I think this is already pretty strong. As a Priest, all you want to do is get to the late game and cast your bombs in arena, right? This is how I draft Priest. I think this is the way everybody, like a successful Priest should go, right? Because your late game is so strong. You have Forbidden Shaping, you have FFA, you have all these board clears, you have big creatures, you have a good hero power, right? Even if you buff this up with Powered Shield or Talon Priest, this becomes insane. This is a card that you must deal with. Like, if I'm a Hunter and I see a Priest play this, I'm gonna cry if I can't kill it immediately. So I think Acolyte of Agony is great. I think you actively want to seek this out to fill out your 3-drop curve. So I'll give this 3 stars. Eternal Servitude. For 4 mana, you discover a friendly minion to die this game and then summon it. This is actually very, very insane. Because for 4 mana, late game, you actually get to play stuff that are really, really powerful. So something like even the 4 mana 5/5 is really good. And I think that's actually the average case, right? Sure, sometimes you get to choose between like a 1-drop, 2-drop, and 3-drop. But then the ceiling is you get to discover your FFAs again and then play it again. And then you get to discover your Bolt of Fist Ogres and play it again. Alright? So I think this is just very, very insane in the late game. And it's another win condition that Priest is looking for. So this is all yeah. Dude, if you even have a few bombs, this becomes nigh unbeatable in the late game. So yeah, I'm gonna treat this as like Free from Amber levels of power. I think this is gonna be 5 stars. You just like, how do you get outvalued by this card, right? This is just nutsos. Yeah. So 5 stars. And for people who don't know what FFA is Free from Amber, right? So this, if you have Free from Amber, if this card, this is like another FFA. Devour Mind is a 5 mana, copy 3 cards in your opponent's deck and add them to your hand. So it's like Super Thought Steal. It's like Kabbalah's Tome. So this effect is, once again, what Priest wants in Arena. You want to outvalue your opponent. Keep in mind that it is 5 mana do nothing. It's 5 mana draw 3 cards. So it's a card advantage card, and you don't want a lot of this because, you know, you're still playing Hearthstone. You still want to play against board. But like Kabbalah's Tome is such a strong card to get you back into the game that Devour Mind does a very good job of doing that as well. Because, you know, if you're playing against a crappy deck, it's okay if you get crappy cards. If you're playing against a good deck, oh my god, you're getting good cards? Feels good, man. So yeah, this is 4 stars. And once again, you only want 1 copy of this in your deck. Shadow Essence is a 6 mana, summon a random 5/5 in your deck. This is a little bit of a awkward card because 6 mana 5/5 is not that insane. If you get an effect to go along with this, that'd be pretty good. So if you get like a Divine Shield, or like if you get Divine Shield, or if you get like a Death Rattle effect or something like that, then it could be pretty good. But otherwise, it's just gonna be a 6 mana 5/5 most of the time, because, you know, most 2-drops don't have text, right? So yeah, I think this is just a pass. You know, if you need 6 drops, if you need more big stuff, you can pick this. If not, then you don't want to pick this. So yeah, 2 stars. I think it's just normal, nothing spectacular. Next up, we have 6 mana Embrace Darkness. It's a spell that says choose an enemy minion, and then at the start of your turn, you gain control of it. So it's kind of like a mind control in Arena, which is great. And it does a good job of kind of like, it's kind of like Holy Fire in my sense, right? Because usually when you cast Holy Fire, you don't have a board and you just want to remove their minion, right? And this gets a pretty damn good swing because you remove their creature and you also summon your own creature at the cost of some life. So I think of this card as like a weapon, right? If you think of this as a weapon, then you feel like, wow, this is actually really good. Like, would you play a weapon that's like 6 mana 5/1 weapon? Whatever this destroys, summon a copy of it, right? Like you would, right? I think this is exactly that. So I think this is a very strong weapon card. It kind of looks like not a weapon, but it is. And you also have a little bit of trick to it, right? You want to play this on the board that they can't trade it off, right? Like if you both have 5/5s, and then you have this, you're probably not going to play this because that's going to end up really bad for you. But yeah, this is going to be a good card, I think. So I'm going to give this like 4 stars. I think you do want these type of effects. Obsidian Stature. Oh my PogChamp. It's a 9 mana priest card. It's a 9 mana 4/8 with taunt and lifesteal, so you get to stabilize immediately. And the Death Rattle is also very, very relevant. It destroys a random enemy minion. And in Arena, this is just going to be so backbreaking because it's just going to stabilize you on the board. 4/8 taunts are really good, as we know from Sparky, right? Sparky just effectively stops the board because it has a AoE attached to it. And this one, instead of the AoE, you get to have some life steal back, and you also get a built-in deadly shot. So yeah, this is just like a very good game ender. It's like FFA levels of good. So easy 5 stars for me. I think Obsidian Stature is one of the payoffs for you to draft Priest in the Arena. Next we have Archbishop Benedictus. As a 7 mana 4/6, you get to shuffle a copy of your opponent's deck into your deck. Well, I mean, okay, fine. You can pick this if your draft is going super terrible, because if you are playing Magma Ragers and, you know, Murlocs, like 1/1 Murlocs and stuff like that, then this actually does help you out because your draws become better. But I'm assuming that you're going to be an Arena Pro because, I mean, come on, you're watching the Amaz channel, okay? Your Arena skills has to be somewhere above average, right? So if you're going to be an above average player, you do not want this, okay? You do not want a 7 mana 4/6 that does not draw you any cards, that does not put any more board pressure, does not screw up your opponent in any sense. Yeah, this is just terrible. I'm gonna just give this 1 star. Like, if your draft is going horrible, then this is your saving grace. But hopefully that's not the case. Alright, and finally we have Shadow Reaper Anduin. It's an 8 mana hero card. Battle cry, destroy all minions of 5 or more attacks. So it's effectively a mass Shadow of Death. You get 5 armor, and then you get to have Void Form, which is 2 mana, deal 2 damage, and after you play a card, you refresh this. So the front half of Shadow Reaper Anduin is pretty nutsos because you actually get to just nuke the board and remove all threats, right? Like if you kill 2 creatures with this is really, really damn good. And the hero power is actually pretty sweet because you get to attach a deal 2 damage to any card that costs 6 or less, right? Because if you have, oh, so it doesn't work at 8 mana because you would just Void Form anyways. It's just like Shadow Form, right? But if you get to turn all your 6 drops into deal 4 damage, that is actually a really powerful effect. What I mean by this is, if you have Bodifist Ogre, right? You can Void Form, Bodifist Ogre, and then play Void Form again. So that's like effectively turning all your cards that cost 6 or less to deal 4 damage, which is very, very relevant. Like, yeah, you're just pretty much going to win the value game because this can go face as well. And, you know, Shadow Reaper Anduin, I think the front half is actually pretty sweet too. Sure, you can say that, oh, this destroys my minions with 5 or more attack as well, right? So isn't that bad? Well, you're not going to be stupid, okay? You're not going to play this when you have a Ball Creeper. Just hold it until you need to play it, and then reap the rewards afterwards, right? So I think Shadow Reaper Anduin is once again also a 5-star Death Knight. I think it's the 5-star Death Knight that's not as strong as the other Death Knights in the set because it requires a little bit more setup cost, but the payoff is like huge once again. So yeah, it's a really strong card. Alright, onwards to Rogue. From commons we have Leeching Poison. For 2 mana, you give your weapon lifesteal. So yeah, it's one of those cards where it's like Healing Touch, where you're strictly just getting life back, which is bad because getting life back is good in Arena if it's kind of like a incidental thing, right? So things that heal yourself and summon a creature, Moonglade Portal for example, would be a good card. Things that lifesteal and is a minion would be a good card. A strict healing card is no good, okay? The saving grace is that it is in Rogue, where you take a lot of damage, but like, what are you gonna put this on? So no, I think this is actually unplayable. It's 0 stars. You do not want to draft any of these. Like, for sure, I do not want any Leeching Poisons in my Rogue drafts. Next, we have Plague Scientist. As a 3 mana 2/3, it has an effect combo. Give a friendly minion poisonous. This is ridiculous. This card is actually ridiculous. It literally says combo, kill one of your own minions to destroy one of any of your opponent's minions, right? Which is like ridiculous. It's actually ridiculous. Like, think about it this way. Abusive Sergeant is a 1 mana 1/1. Give a minion +2 attack this turn, right? Cool. What is this? Plague Scientist. Combo. Give a friendly minion infinite attack. Permanently. Okay? That's what Plague Scientist says. So really good in the board pressure game. You really want a lot of 1-drops and 2-drops. When you play this sort of cards. So something like Swashbuckler, something like Huckster, you know. Yeah, this card is just really, really powerful. I think this is like a card that I want to rate 5 stars because I want to have as many of these as possible. But I think it's gonna be 4 stars. Yeah, I think it's gonna be 4 stars because the more of these effects you have, the less powerful to become because it's like the same thing, right? So yeah, I think it's a 4-star card. Next we have Bone Baron. For 5 mana 5/5, you get the Death Rattle. Add 2 1 mana 1/1 skeletons to your hand. So this is a very, very big value card, right? As a 5 mana 5/5, you get to add cards that you're gonna play sometime in the future anyways because you're drawing them for free. It's not like you're putting them in your deck or anything, right? So effectively, I feel like this is a 5 mana 7/7 in that you only play the skeletons when you have nothing else to play. So I think this is a very strong card. I'll give this 4 stars. And yeah, I think I'd be happy with as many copies of this as possible too. There's also a Death Rattle synergy as well. So if you get the Shadow Cast through this, if you get some more different Death Rattle minions around this, the skeletons can also activate your combo effects, which is pretty cool. So yeah, there's a couple of things you can do with this. Next we have Roll the Bones. For 2 mana, you get to draw a card. Hey, if it has Death Rattle, you get to Roll the Bones again, and you get to keep on going. It's pretty. It gets pretty crazy, huh? Unfortunately, drafting Death Rattle cards in Arena is not up to you. It's up to the draft, and then even so, I don't think I want to play a 2 mana draw card. So like, I think this is pretty bad. It still does something at least. So if you're playing a deck that has a lot of legendaries or a lot of good cards, then maybe 2 mana draw one is completely fine. But I don't foresee you drawing more than 1 card with this 99% of the time. So I'll give this 1 star. Next we have Shadowblade. For 3 mana, you get a weapon with it's a 3/2 weapon, so it's really, really powerful. And Battlecry, your hero is immune this turn. So all 3 mana 3/2 weapons are playable. They're all really, really good. And this one, the special effect is your hero gets to restore some health, basically, right? So I think this is very, very strong. You're gonna draft this whenever you see this because it's a 3/2 weapon, and 3/2 weapons are really good. And the effect is not like it's negligible, right? As a rogue, you're gonna use your face a lot, and restoring health is gonna be great. So I think this is a very easy 5-star card. You see Shadowblade, you just pick it, and you'll be very happy. Next, we have Runeforge Haunter. For 4 mana, you get a 5/3 with during your turn, your weapon doesn't lose durability. So effectively, it gains the durability on your turns because effectively you want to play it with weapon. If you don't, then it's still fine. It's a 4 mana 5/3. It's aggressively slanted, and yeah, I think this is okay. It is below the curve in sort of stats, but it has a very high attack, and that's kind of what you want out of a 4-drop anyways, because, you know, it either trades for something up, or, you know, it stays on the board and puts a lot of aggression onto the opponent. It does die to 3/2s, but at the same time, you are playing Rogue, so you have a lot of backstabs and a lot of eviscerates and SI7s. And like, dealing 2 damage is not going to be a problem for Rogues, right? So I think this is okay. I think this is passable. 3-star card. Next, we have Doomerang. Throw your weapon at a minion. It deals its damage and then returns it to your hand, okay? So this is kind of like drawing half a card, because you usually use this when you only have a 1 durability weapon, right? Yeah, and sometimes you want to draw back your Shadow Blade, you want to draw back your Assassin's Blade or your Perdition's Blade and stuff like that. I still think this is pretty bad because you're still drawing half card. Sure, you give your weapon Wind Fury if you can do it immediately, but the value is not going to be there. Like, this could be something else, and this is an epic, right? There are way better epics that you can draft in Arena compared to Doomerang. So this is just a 1-star card. I don't think this is gonna be too good. Next, we have Spectral Pillager. For 6 mana, you get a 5/5 with combo. Deal damage equal to the number of other cards you play this turn. So very similar to Fire Elemental in Arena, where, you know, you kind of want to deal damage and remove something immediately. But then you have to think to yourself, like, how do you play 3 extra cards before Spectral Pillager? Like, it's going to be very, very difficult to do, right? It does still do an immediate effect, so it's still okay, but I think the setup cost is going to be pretty difficult, and you still need the right deck for it. Like, even like a 5/5 that deals 2 damage is passable, but I don't think it's insane. So I'm just gonna give this like a 3-star. And, you know, it sucks more if you're playing on curve, and it's a little bit better if you're playing a very low to the ground Rogue deck. Oh baby, Lillian Voss is a 4-mana 4/5 with Battlecry. Replace spells in your hand with random spells. Look, I am super happy with my Chill and Yetis all the time, and this legendary actually gets to get something more insane. It actually gets to replace spells that are pretty crappy in your situation into something better. Yeah, this is a good card, man. I think this is 4 stars immediately, like in the minimum, because it's already a Chill and Yeti. Chill and Yeti in Arena is 4 stars, right? It does have a extra effect, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it doesn't do anything. So yeah, I don't think it's like that game changing to replace spells. Sometimes, like, even if you play around it, you might get the same power level spell. Rogue spells are already pretty strong. So yeah, I think even with this text, I'm gonna keep it at 4 stars. I don't think it's gonna happen too often, but hey, it's a Yeti. Play your Yetis. And finally, we have Valira the Hollow. It's a 9-mana rogue card with gain stealth until your next turn. You get 5 armor, and then you also get a passive hero power, which is during every turn, you get Shadow Reflection added to your hand, which is a card that copies the last play card that you did that turn. Yeah. This actually, unfortunately, this is very, very unfortunate. This is the only Death Knight which is not going to get 5 stars in Arena, because it's 9 mana, do nothing. Okay? In Arena, you're not going to be... you're not going to want to spend a turn setting up your combos like this, right? This card is more Constructed card, because in Constructed, you actually get to construct a miracle deck out of this. But in Arena, you actually do want like tempo cards, and you actually just want to play with the board. You want to kill your opponent and stuff like that. Valira the Hollow doesn't actually do any of that. If you are playing this card to live an extra turn, well, you're gonna die next turn, because you're actually spending your whole turn living because of 9 mana, and then you're just gonna die. Because copying an extra card is exactly like drawing an extra card. So I think Valira the Hollow is actually pretty damn bad. You do not want this in Arena. Like, I can't foresee myself playing this, like insta picking this over any other, over the best legendaries, right? I think the best way to evaluate this card is that it's a 9 mana. For the rest of the game, you draw an additional card every time. That's literally what it says. So you get basically a free... how do I put this? You get like Arcane Intellect every turn, because you're drawing 2 cards instead of 1. And I don't think that's actually worth 9 mana. So I'm just actually going to give this only 3 stars. I think there are a lot of 4-star legendaries that are just better than Valira the Hollow. I actually kind of want to give this 2 stars. Because like, spending 9 mana to do nothing is really, really awkward in Arena. You just don't want this kind of effect. This also, the Shadow Reflection also doesn't work on cards that cost 6 or more. Because by definition, you copying a 6-drop means that you can't play it. Right? So, okay, this is actually even worse. Because it doesn't copy your best cards. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna give Valera the Hollow like 2 stars. I don't think this is a death knight you want in Arena. So, yeah. Sorry, Valera. Stay in Constructed.